What do you do when there's a big suffering, a big shock, a big problem? Something, bad news, sorrow, surprise, fear. What do you do? Look at that window on fire there. We're standing in the line of the light. And it's reflecting right here behind us. What do you do in these moments of sadness, of sorrow, of shock, grief, threat, economic news, political news, family news? On Saturday we read about John the Baptist's beheading and that big birthday party that finished up in a murder of a prophet. And they bring the news to Jesus. And he goes to a deserted place. What's the meaning of that? What's the import? When he looks for quiet, he doesn't turn on the television and keep watching it like happens today in an endless cycle of immersion and saturation with the drama, with the emotion, with the just like feeding and overfeeding and overindulging in the intensity of the violent drama. That's not what Jesus does. And just think what we do when there is a tragedy. What's our behavior? Do we look for a deserted place, a place where we can process what happened instead of just being fed more and more and more and more and more? To go to a deserted place, to process that act of terror, that act of horror, that act of destruction. There's great wisdom in that, because our identity is shaken, our world is shaken by an event like this, a bad earthquake, a loss of life, and it's far away that we can do something. It's overpowering, it's overwhelming, and we can't ourselves be involved directly there. Jesus can't go there to Herod's palace, and change the situation. It's also interesting that John the Baptist's disciples went to Jesus in that moment. They went to somebody who knows how to withdraw to a quiet place, to retreat. Retreat not in the sense of giving up and abandoning the battle, but trying to discern what is the Father speaking here. What is the consequence? What is the next step? Violence is not always to be answered by violence. In fact, probably the best formula is violence is hardly ever to be answered by violence. Because violence doesn't resolve anything. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. That's almost like a sword of light. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. The program of violence doesn't resolve anything. Jesus withdraws to a quiet place, a deserted place, where he can be alone, where he can gather his thoughts. Just think of the last big drama that happened, which is surely very sad, very difficult for humanity, and how much we indulge in further data, in further just being with that the whole time. Somebody said that's a plover, I think. If I remember right, send me a little note. To take time, to take quiet. And if we look at the first reading of Jeremiah, and there's a false prophet who proclaims peace. And God is all about peace, but a false prophet can be proclaiming a peace that doesn't exist and will not hold. And you can also see Jeremiah's effort to discern that. And he doesn't call him out immediately. He takes time. He surely had his own quiet place. He was actually imprisoned. He was in stocks. What does it mean to be in stocks? Not stockings. In stocks, his hands and feet were locked into wooden, what do you call them, wrenches, or what do you call that thing? A wooden, oh, we used to have it at home to hold things for working on them. It would fix the thing in place and it couldn't be moved from there. And he couldn't move. He was locked in. But then he was freed, and he still didn't talk right away. He needed to listen to the word of God. To listen. What a great word. That's one of the key words of Revelation. Shema Israel. Listen. Listen. And listen means that we don't have all the answers. Listen means precisely listen. Listen means get instruction. To listen. To listen, to discern in prayer. We often ask the Lord to listen to us, but maybe He's speaking volumes, and what we need to do is listen to Him. To enter into that silence, that interior silence, also to listen to ourselves. A friend told me recently that the doctor told him to listen to his body. You know, we push very hard with our own agenda, with our own desires, with our own drive. We want to climb all mountains and swim all oceans and push, 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 push. But to listen, is that God's will for us? We're so very often self-willed. We have so many interests that drive that will. And then from that deserted place, Jesus is able to have so much interior strength not to become obsessed by the killing of John the Baptist, knowing the seriousness of the moment, and yet completely free to fulfill his mission, his duty. And he teaches the crowd that have found him in this deserted place. And he's able to strengthen and encourage the disciples to have that act of faith and trust to go out and feed the needy. Instead of being obsessed by their own problem, as serious as it is, the danger for them now that John the Baptist has been killed, you go about feeding the needy. You go about sharing what you have with those who need it. People, I think we leave it like that for today. In this incredibly beautiful morning with all this play of light here at the Sea of Galilee. God bless you. See you later, alligators. Have your own quiet spot to withdraw today and process one of the pieces of news you'll hear in the media. And say, what is your call today? What piece of good will you do today? What's the Lord asking from you to contribute today? God bless you.